Word of the day is cooperation. So we've been, hi there. Caught us in the middle of a sentence, but that's okay because it shows we're live and spontaneous here today. The word of the day, which we typically have, is cooperation. Chat's wide open. We really rely and depend on chat to make us as uh, valuable as possible and relevant, and hopefully generate some quality takeaways. With that said, I want to introduce my favorite co-host, Karl Dakin, who is just an expert and an authority on funding in many different forms and ways and has a tremendous background. So someone I would advocate and promote in a way that reaches, you can reach out to him, get to know him, especially if there's a common reason or alignment. With that said, I'll turn it over to Karl. Karl can briefly introduce himself to those who don't know him and reintroduce themselves to everyone who does know him. Karl, take it away.
Thanks, Donna. Thanks for allowing me to be a guest on your show this morning. For those of you who don't know me, I basically act as a capital coach, meaning I work with businesses and communities primarily to help them put together ways to raise funding. It might be charitable, it might be something that forward rewards or products and services, or even equity debt financing at the securities level. And my purpose is to help them figure out who, where, why, how to go out and raise funding from people who are most interested in helping them succeed in what they're doing. And so I have my own show on LinkedIn once a week on Tuesday mornings at 8 a.m. Denver time called Successful Funding. And then I put out a newsletter called Instant Funding for those who are in a hurry. And I put that out on a daily basis. But for those who have less time, you can read the compilation of everything over the week in a weekly thing that comes out on Sundays. So I'm happy to share what I know, what I'm learning, which is never ever continuing cycle here. And looking forward to today's word, which is collaboration. Did I hear that right? That's our word today.
Cooperation.
Cooperation. Okay. Well, they're not that different. They're close relatives. Have to think about if there's any real distinction. But I work with projects on a community level where it's not one thing, it's several things that you're trying to get going all at the same time so that you get a synergistic or complementary effect where one thing is not just by itself. And when you talk with a small business, all too often they think of themselves and act as though they're an island unto themselves, and they don't do as good of a job as they need to, as they should, to work with others within their supply chain, within their community, to build allies who will help them do what they're trying to do in kind of a reciprocal fashion, give and get. So that they can be all they can be. And when we get into communities, all too often, what we see is a single attempt to help the community out that is, again, designed somehow to work by itself without consideration or integration with everything around it. And for a lot of that reason alone, it may fail because it simply can't get the energy, the funding, the revenue it needs to do something. So if you take off your "it's all about me" hat and you put on "hey, it's all about us" hat, and start thinking about how you do everything within a business, within any project, the word cooperation should come to mind very early and often. Because anyone who can benefit from the success of what you're doing as a stakeholder, and anything you can do to contribute to somebody else's success may also create new stakeholders who want to help you because you're helping them. And this may get to sounding a little bit like woo woo kind of stuff, but It's true. The projects I work on where we have lots of people all working together without worrying about themselves or worrying about the collective outcome, we get a lot more done. And so cooperation is not only a good word in my sense, it's an essential tool in the toolbox for success.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that takes us to a great foundation and start to the show. You know, it's interesting the distinction between cooperation and collaboration. It seems like just a layer of difference. Cooperation, possibly where people are working together and you're reducing resistance between elements or individuals, where collaboration is a little bit more stepping into it and working collectively to get things done, not just cooperatively. So it moves from friendship to maybe family, if you want to call it that. But also, cooperation is really knitting the elements, the individuals together. So happy. We've got some comments starting. We'll start with Carrie's joke. How do you make a cherry turn over? Just push it down a hill. Okay, I never thought of it that way. Kelly's here. Kelly's always here, even when she's not here. She's here in spirit. She's had so much to do for 19 months and really helping formulate the format, the show, and really bringing great insights and just a very service-oriented person that puts a lot of people first and is just great. She'll be here tomorrow with me, and Dave Snell will be with us. So quite a show. Thank you, Kelly. And word of the day is cooperation for those who are entering later, just so that you can put your thinking hats on and contribute as much as you can, and also get visibility, because part of cooperation is showing up, not just, doing something, but being there with the others who could be doing something. And sometimes cooperation is just confirmation. Someone who just agrees and validates something is a cooperator. So there's extents of cooperation, which again could lead to collaboration. And, it's now in this day and age and being on the cutting edge, it's how many elements can you bring together to support cooperation and actually be cooperative. And live streaming is one element. Everything or most things rely on time and cost efficiencies. So the less resistance, the more cooperation. And cooperation is investment as far as input, sharing knowledge that could contribute to somebody else's or the whole group's benefit. So I think we really got a great first bite of the apple. And, how do you integrate or leverage cooperation when you're positioning yourself to be that interface or facilitator in creating opportunities for funding?
One of the keys is to act as I'll call it a curator, where you're sharing information, not just your own, but you're also facilitating the movement of information and knowledge to people who have an interest in a particular topic. And as I work with different funding campaigns, we work to create a community of common interest where everybody wants to know about dinosaurs, or everybody wants to know about environmental conservation within a building, or one of the other things I happen to be working on these days. And when you do that, there is so much knowledge out there that can be of help to you. And one of the ways to get it to come to you is to offer to repeat it or share it with other people. And by doing that, you make yourself an influencer, as they use it in the words today, because your simple selection and repetition of that information to others means that you're in charge, or the flow of information, and you're the place that people come to because they're going, wow, I didn't know I could do that. and I got the information from you, and they're appreciative of that. And so this adds to your credibility. It adds to the value that you're contributing to everybody else. And so when you get to a point where you say, I could use some help, particularly with funding, which is my area of interest, it's easier because you already have a relationship. They already know who you are and appreciate what you've done for them in the past. And now, when you say I could use some help, we're through most of the first reasons not to invest or to provide funding. They still may not have any money, but they may be willing to share or pass your request for funding on to other people. So you basically have built a network, a community of people who all have common interest. And if helping you helps them, then it's easy for them to get behind and support you, even if it's no more than passing along, the statement, "Hey, Carl's looking for some funding for this project."
Yeah, I think that brings to mind to achieve cooperation, one should be a cooperator. And how do you get in there and, really allow yourself to be viewed as a person, a go-to person, a person that's kind of involved with a lot of different situations, groups, individuals that, you can depend on them, if not for direct benefit, maybe indirect benefit, could be advice that supports what you're doing, could be referrals. Again, some people will jump in, some people will help someone else jump in, and it's really amplifying your relevant reach. It's not how many people you have around you, how many people can you work with that will bring value? Because sometimes, two's companies, three's a crowd, and you can bring in a lot of people who are willing to cooperate, but are they willing to cooperate for the common cause as opposed to just throw something into the works, and hope it sticks, or just be someone who, and I think part of cooperation is attitude and personality. What do they bring that are the intangibles, right? Is there a sense of humor? Is there an optimistic, positive approach to things? And does that help in the overall picture? The proof is always in the pudding. You can probably look back at success and you could find the reasons why it was successful, and usually reasons turn into people. And it's really understanding the power that can be generated by having a cohort group, a group that's communicating. And I think live streaming can do that because it allows people to get to know each other without a lot of risk, without a lot of exposure or liability. And that allows people, it's kind of auditioning in a sense. But hey, when you know somebody, it's easier to cooperate with them. If you don't know somebody and you just take a stab in the dark, you're taking somewhat of a risk, especially if you're including them with other people. And that's why having a Zoom call, maybe a coffee meeting, depending if you're in town with that person, who can kind of lay out what it is you're looking for, as opposed to surprising somebody also. Because some people may be under the impression, here's what you're looking for, and you may not be looking for it the same way or in the time frame. And really expressing yourself and, getting volunteers. You can't just choose somebody. It needs to be taken in a lot of ways, not just given. So the people who can learn how to cooperate, build collaboration with it, and communicate with a lot of C's there, will have a competitive advantage over those who don't. And it could be that one person, that one idea that turns the tide. So, Karl, what do you do to make people comfortable in cooperating? How do you approach people going forward that you think could be cooperators?
Well, the first thing I like to do when I'm meeting somebody or new, or I'm advancing a new idea or concept, is I like to present it as a question, which is, I think I can help you do this, or I think this technology or this company may be of help to you, and present it as a potential benefit to them. And then we discuss whether it is or not. And it kind of moves to a consultation kind of a conversation where I don't assume, I don't mandate, I don't push anything. I will have maybe put my opinion, or I may explain how this might be of benefit so it's easier to understand from the perspective of the person I'm talking to. But I want them to look at this objectively. I want them to consider how it may be of help to them. And if they give me any positive feedback, then we can dive into that and discuss it in greater detail. But by doing that, I'm basically saying I'm here and I'm only trying to determine if this can be of help. If it can't be of help, that's fine. Shut it down, say no, and we'll go on to something else. And people are totally receptive to this approach because it's about them, for them. And it does not come across that I have an ulterior purpose, even though I may want to sell them something, I may want to monetize what I'm doing for them. But we're going to get their buy-in before we start selling, so to speak, that it is of value to them. And if it is, then it's a matter of what is the price and how hard is it and all the complications that come along with that. But this is one of the reasons why I like LinkedIn Live, is that I can talk to one person and I can spend a half hour, 15 minutes, hour, whatever it is with them, talking to them about what they need. And at the end of that time, I've helped one person. If I come on LinkedIn Live and I share some information like we're doing now, I'm helping everyone who's in the audience, everyone who may see the recording of this program tomorrow or next week or next year. Um, and so, in some ways, I'm getting higher benefit by sharing more information with more people. At the same time, I'm helping more people by using this medium rather than a one-on-one or a classroom thing where maybe I have 20 students in it. This one has the whole reach to everybody that's on LinkedIn. Not that everybody cares what I'm going to say or do, but the potential is there that if I should say or do something that's useful to everyone on LinkedIn, they can see it. So it's a better use of my time. It's a way to create greater value to more people because it's one on many instead of one on one.
Yeah, those are great distinctions. And part of the value is a two-way street here is the feedback you receive, right? Because it gives you a chance to really craft your message in front of a live audience, an audience that has no vested interest or obligation in anything yet. And it's getting to know people slowly, but importantly over time. Right? Kelly always talks about the pitch slap, and that has very little time between connecting and getting the proposition, where some things have a lot of time, a lot of messaging before someone actually responds. Most of the people who actually take action are the people who don't show up on the comments. That whole statistic that only 18% of the people do anything on LinkedIn and only 2% create content. And then if you take it down to live streaming, you're probably into hundreds, maybe 1,000. I haven't been able to find more than 10 that I'm aware of that I would actually enjoy participating in. And usually the 10 are the people we're working with already, like Kelly. Harvey just joined us. Glad to see you, Harvey. Harvey is a master of live streaming, has his show on Tuesdays, the franchise show, and then Thursdays, which is the franchise brand show, has a newsletter, has sponsorship opportunities, is really reaching out, extending his wings in a matter of speaking. and including people. And a lot of times the cooperation you get from people is based on the opportunities you offer to people. And one other thing is less is more. If it's more relevant, it's more aligned. I would rather have one or two Kellys and Harveys than 100 tire kickers who have no interest in ever doing anything. And you just never know what you don't know. I had Ford Sykes on and asked him, why do you like coming back on the show? And he says, all it takes is one person, and you never know if that person's going to be in the audience. So, there's always that opportunity. Kelly comes back and responds to the pitch slap is not cooperative or collaborative, just ineffective and annoying. And that is so true, Kelly, because it separates the players who are really there for something of value as opposed to those who are just showing up. And we do a little magic here and there, the disappearing act, but it always comes back. And, I think the other thing is having a little bit of fun, taking the seriousness out of things, the urgency, the immediacy that pitch slapping can bring with it, and really getting to be a safe, trusting place. And I think, people like to do business with people who they like, trust, and know. And somehow you got to start building that awareness. And, it's really a pre-filter that if you see somebody over time, what they say, how they say it, but just as importantly, how they treat the people around them, because that's going to be how you're going to be treated. And so having a preview makes a lot of sense, and it allows you to make better choices over time than just fast choices, not just looking for someone who can fog a mirror, but someone who can bring value. And another key element is who can make you better for the time spent with them. So some people may have different kinds of benefit. Other people just make you think better. Their questions are just a little bit more relevant to what you want to know. And maybe their experience and background can complement what you're lacking. And I think that's a big element of cooperation is what does everybody bring to the table, right? You can't start a baseball team with 9 catchers. It's a bad myth to have at first base or in the outfield. But you can have 9 great catchers, but they're not going to make for a strong aligned team. And I think that's what everybody should be looking for is who can I build on my team over time. Some people are specialists and some other people are generalists. Harvey comes back with 2 right, Kelly. My face is a little red as I've been pitch slapped a fair bit lately. The engagement and connection you can achieve via live show is so powerful and underused. So true, Harvey. And, Harvey's been at it a little bit over a year, started off doing some guest hosting appearances and flew off on his own, is doing great. But it took that year. The key is what does the second year look like and the third year? Me and Karl have been talking in the past, and if you take a typical business, it usually takes 2, 3, up to 5 years to, really find its own way. And the first year is a lot harder, and takes a lot more discipline and a lot more tenacity and perseverance. Just like they say, the first million's the hardest, the second million comes faster, and I think just like anything else, you got to put in the hard work. You got to understand you're not as good as you think you are because you're just basing it on limited experience and sometimes no experience. And at that point, it's all presumption and projection. Getting around cooperators kind of helps mold your expectation. And, if you say, okay, if it's going to take 2 years, well, the first month I'm 1/24th into it versus after a month, hey, I'm not making it. It's not working. And all of a sudden you become the people who are booing you, but you're doing it for them. So thank you, Harvey. And I think that's also, we do have a cohort group that meets every other Thursday. Harvey's in it, Kelly's in it, Beverly's in it. And I think when you already have something that's built to win and you can just attach yourself to it and draft off of it until you're in a better position that you could lap the field and now be the one people draft off of, could be very significant. Kelly comes back with, could not agree more, Harvey. Real connection takes you places you didn't even realize you needed to go. And part of cooperation is giving yourself up from being the absolute 100% of something. It says, okay, pull up a seat at the table. Now we're all equal. Now we all can share. And just like what's happening now, you get a couple of great people like Harvey and Kelly, and the comments open up. You got 4 or 5 lines comments, and that makes for the show, and also gives everybody a chance to show themselves and contribute. Okay, one last joke. The lobster said he was too shellfish to cooperate. Well, that does align with cooperate, Carrie. So, Karl, now that we've got 2 of our best friends on LinkedIn here, what's your new thoughts?
Well, I think that the concept of cooperation, if we want to drill down a little bit, starting with your point that if it's all about you, then there's really no cooperation taking place, and you are able to do whatever you can do within the extent of your talent, time, money, and so forth. When you start to cooperate, you have access to other resources, and I'm all about gathering resources to move forward a project or a new business. And so cooperation is an automatic for me, where I'm trying to figure out who can help. And as we do this, kind of looking at this a little more granular, is if there's one of you, then that's all there is. If there's 2 of you, now you have a team of 2. And within a business organization, you may put these people around you in your team or your staff as your primary, but then you can set a board of directors or a board of managers around that to bring in their advice and expertise. Then you have another layer of a board of advisors, who is a looser definition, not involved in operations, but providing that input, that expertise you may not have. And what I'm trying to do is create at least 1 or 2 more levels of this, where we talk about entire communities that are working together for a common purpose or outcome, where maybe the only thing we have in common is that we share a desire for an outcome to occur. And how do you do that? How do you give to them? How do they benefit from this? Is a constant question that's on the table, because if they're not getting anything out of it, why would they have any reason to give anything back? So the give and take, the nature of the benefit, what is particularly a benefit to one person isn't to another. So you then, now we're into a cafeteria of benefits, where I can't get by with one benefit. I have to have 4, 5, 10, 100 benefits to match up with everybody, but we all share this common goal or outcome. And so it gets very interesting as we start getting into the complexity of huge groups and all the different people that are playing, and how do we get them all to play well together? How do we communicate back and forth? And that's why newsletters and LinkedIn Live and emails and so forth can all be tools to help keep everybody informed transparently about what's going on, giving them an opportunity to make a contribution. The thing that Kelly said is, you don't know what you don't know, and you can be doing something thinking everything's all right, and somebody pops up who's in your community and says, have you thought about doing this? And you're like, no, I didn't, but that is a really good idea. And you wouldn't have that idea coming to you if you were not cooperating and sharing and working with people around you. So there's this huge volume of things that can help you if you make yourself open and you present yourself in a way where they want to help you because they get something back from it. And we talk about acting in your own self-interest. There's nothing wrong with that. That's who you are. It's part of your survival instincts. But if you really want to thrive, to go beyond survival, then you got to start thinking about, how do I help everybody else who's in my society, in my group, my community, whatever word we're going to use. And that has to be part of your daily regimen. You have to get up in the morning and go, what am I going to do to help my crowd, my community? And once you build that into what you're doing, whether it's doing a LinkedIn live show, or it's surfing the internet for stories to pass along to everybody, or introducing two people that you think should be working with each other, you're making your contribution to that, and there will be a benefit that will come back. So Don's image froze up on my screen. Looks like he's sleeping right now, but I don't think that's what's going on. I think that's simply an internet issue. And what I said was not so boring that it put him to sleep. But hopefully Don will be back, or it's maybe I'm the one that's not visible at the moment. But uh, I will continue talking here until I hear Don take over again. And so now I'm the host of Don's show, and we're talking about cooperation. And Don is, at least on my screen, appears to be having a nice nap, and I think everybody should have more naps. So Don will be back here in a moment as he checks back in, as we can see that. So thanks, Kelly. I now know who's visible and who's not. And now this is the Karl Dakin show, not the Don Cohen show. And I will take power and control the show from this forward. So thank you, Carrie and Kelly, for feedback. And I cannot put your comments up on the screen because I'm not controlling this. But Kelly says, such a good point, Karl. Thank you. We can get stuck in our ways, and that one little statement, have you thought about doing this, can change everything. I think this is so important that we all kind of get our habits, our customs, our common way of doing things. And it's a sense of comfort, because you like repetition, you like knowing where everything's going to be when you get up in the morning. You don't want to worry about, did a tornado blow my house away last night, or did I suffer, a crash on Wall Street? We all like stability, but with stability there is no change. There's no capability of room for improvement, and improvement can come from who we know, from the relationships that we're in. And as a result of that, I think it's good for everyone to build into their personal plan, their business plan, their community plan, however they're looking at it, and say, how do I engage more people? How do I give them a chance to help me do everything I want to do? And that means, by definition, that you have to reach out to them and demonstrate to them that you can, in fact, help them do what they're trying to do. And so it's kind of like a constant interrogation. I do things like lunch club. I was at a reception last night, and as I stated earlier in the show today, when I start the conversation, I basically ask a person who they are, what they're doing, and then I ask them, what I might be able to do to help them. And sometimes this catches people off guard. They're like, "Who are you?" Show up suddenly offering to help me out. So I typically will soften a little bit, where I'm going, what's challenging you? What is it that is your biggest issue of the day, because most people are happy to talk about that because it's front and center in their mind. And if I can, I may say, well, have you looked at this? Have you talked to these people? Are you aware of this solution? And the net of that is that you start a conversation talking to somebody about something that you might be able to help them with. And there's, in my mind, no quicker, better way to start creating a relationship by demonstrating cooperation, by demonstrating that you are thinking of the potential that you may be of help. It may turn out that there's nothing you can do, or today's the wrong day. Come back next week, next year. Maybe we can work together then. But I was at this reception last night. I talked to a number of people. It turned out there was a couple of them that I may be able to help. And we're going to set a meeting next week, and we're going to exchange information and dive deeper. And this was kind of a surprise to me because it wasn't anything I anticipated was going to happen at this particular event. But because I was there, because I showed up and I was willing to talk to people about what their challenges were, this particular challenge popped up, and I go, I may know something that can be of help. So obviously, Don is taking a nap and is not coming back, but I'll continue to run Don's show with some degree of professionalism and try not to ruin his brand or his reputation through the remainder of today's show. So Harvey has put in the chat room, you have the words motivated behind you. How do you stay motivated in your business? That's a good question. Don has now told me he is watching on the phone. I don't know if that means he's abdicated the show to me entirely or he's going to try to come back, but this is all good. And so I will answer Harvey's question. The word motivated is something that I use when I am looking for sources of assets, resources of money, other things in a capital campaign. And I'm looking for the people who have a reason to work with me. They've got to get some benefit out of what I'm doing. And I have found that the people who have the highest motivation are most likely to make an investment to put their resources at my disposal or those of